For days, the Middle East appeared to be heading towards another cycle of dangerous military escalation. President Donald Trump publicly warned that the United States was prepared to unleash what he described as one of the biggest military operations in modern history against Iran if Tehran refused to back down. An operation Trump himself later claimed would have been bigger than anything since World War II. But then came a crucial phone call, and that call was from Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. According to multiple reports, MBS urged Trump to avoid another round of devastating strikes, warning that the consequences for the Gulf could be catastrophic. Well, it seems like that conversation helped shift Washington from the brink of escalation towards renewed diplomacy. So now the question is, why did Saudi Arabia, which is one of Iran's biggest regional rivals, suddenly push for restraint? Well, the reason is far more interesting and straightforward than you think. First, let's set the scene. After months of fighting between the United States and Iran, tension reached a new peak when Trump signaled that American forces were prepared for another massive military campaign. According to reports, US planners were considering attacks on key Iranian energy facilities and strategic infrastructure. In fact, Trump later said the proposed operation would have been larger than any US military strikes since World War II. Military assets had reportedly been positioned, while Washington continued warning Tehran over attacks on shipping and disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz. Everything suggested that another phase of the war was about to begin. Then diplomacy unexpectedly entered the picture. Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince personally contacted Trump and expressed serious concern over launching another major offensive. In fact, the Saudi leader reportedly argued that a fresh US bombing campaign could ignite an even wider regional conflict at a time when Gulf nations were already facing growing security risks. Now, at the first glance, Saudi Arabia urging restraint may appear surprising. After all, Riyadh has long viewed Iran as its principal regional rival. The two countries compete for influence across the Middle East, backing opposing sides in several conflicts. However, Saudi Arabia today faces a very different strategic reality. Unlike previous years, the kingdom has spent considerable efforts trying to rebuild diplomatic ties with Tehran and stabilizing the Gulf, and a full-scale US assault on Iran could undo those gains overnight. In fact, Saudi leaders are particularly worried about Iran retaliating against neighboring Gulf countries rather than only targeting American forces. In fact, you must remember that Iran has repeatedly warned that countries assisting US military operations could become legitimate targets if conflict escalates. Well, that raised concerns for energy facilities, airports, ports, and other critical infrastructure across the Gulf. In fact, Saudi Arabia also understands that another round of heavy bombing could trigger missile and drone attacks across the region, threaten commercial shipping, and push oil prices sharply higher once again. And for a country trying to diversify its economy under Vision 2030 while attracting foreign investment, prolonged regional instability is exactly what Riyadh wants to avoid. Basically, in simple language, Saudi Arabia may still disagree with Iran on many issues, but it appears to believe that another major war would create far greater problems than it would solve. If the United States had gone ahead with another large-scale bombing campaign, Saudi Arabia could have found itself caught in the middle once again. The kingdom sits at the heart of the Gulf's energy network. Its oil fields, export terminals, and shipping routes are among the world's most important economic assets. And any Iranian retaliation targeting Gulf infrastructure could once again disrupt global oil supplies, increase insurance costs for shipping, unsettle financial markets, and place enormous pressure on Saudi Arabia's economy. Then comes the Strait of Hormuz, which remains another critical concern, as any renewed fighting could once again threaten maritime traffic, affecting not just Gulf economies but world energy markets. Now, there's also the broader geopolitical risk. A wider conflict could draw additional regional players into the fighting, forcing Gulf governments into difficult military and diplomatic choices. Even if Saudi Arabia sought neutrality, the kingdom could still face retaliation because of its close strategic relations with Washington and, to be specific, with Donald Trump. Well, that explains why Riyadh's message to Washington appears clear: prevent another military escalation while there is still room for diplomacy. At the end, for now, Trump's decision to pause the planned strikes has temporarily eased fears of an immediate regional explosion. Whether negotiations succeed or whether this proves to be only a brief pause, as we have witnessed earlier, before another confrontation, will determine not only the future of US-Iran relations, but also the security and economic stability of Saudi Arabia and the wider Middle East. Well, with that, it's a wrap on this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm Yash Goel signing off for Times Now Digital. Until next time, take care and keep watching this space for more such videos.